all interconnected. And that's why, again, I love the breath, is because it connects all the different parts and systems in the body, your physical body, your mental state, your emotional state. This is what we forget, right? And finally, we're moving to this view of medicine and of wellness that understands that we're an interconnected system of all of these different parts.
Like we all
Because
work like the body, mind, everything, soul works together. Marina, welcome to the show.
thank you.
I'm so
Thanks
happy
for
to,
having
yes, I'm
me.
so happy to have you. We actually were planning this for how many weeks
A
already?
while,
A while.
probably 2 months.
Yeah. I know, and it's so funny. Yeah. I was sick, something came up, so I'm very happy to have you. You're an inspiration. Tell me a little bit, and the guest, tell me what you do right now. Like, what is your purpose in life? What are you following? What are you building?
Yeah. I love this question. And it's changed so much over the years. And now, after 6 years of being in my business, I feel like I'm finally settling into really having the purpose of teaching and facilitating breath work. And breath work as just this core modality for so many other things that breath does for us. But that's my biggest passion right now is breath work, supporting women through burnout and nervous system health, and really just helping people find safety in their body. I think that's what it comes down for me, is breath is one of the most helpful ways that we can build safety, that we can come back to safety. It's the quickest way to get there when you don't have anything that you can reach
Yeah,
for. You always have your breath. So that's been kind of my biggest pull.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you always have your breath. That's true. The only one thing that you can probably control, right?
Yeah, yeah, because that's what I find, when you are stressed, it's not always realistic to do something to support yourself, right? To have, I don't know, a supplement or even a glass of water or someone to talk to, but we always have our breath. Like that's the most fundamental skill that I think we should all learn how to use, because it can make all of life better. Like you can breathe better in all situations, whether
Yeah.
you're on stage, whether you're exercising, whether you're communicating with your partner, whether you're trying to solve a challenging problem. The breath can always support us in all of those
Or
situations.
vice versa.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's funny when my first, I guess, intro into the breath work was my own kind of thing because I had a lot of surgeries. I was getting like a lot of infection there, and it's always couldn't breathe. And I was a
Wow.
mouth breather. Nobody taught me that. Like, breath is automatic, so you kind of don't think about like you're just breathing, right? And I was a mouth breather, so very bad sleep and also a lot of just fatigue and not a lot of energy. So after the fifth surgery, I was like, all right, that's gotta be another way because I just don't want to continue doing that. And it's painful. You're in a full anesthesia. So I discovered Breath, the book.
The book by
Yes,
James Nestor.
yes, I
Yeah.
love it. So I was like blown away with like how it affects our breathing pattern, everything. So then I jumped into the oxygen advantage.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I gotta try this. So in the morning, it was in South Carolina. I was meditating and I was doing pranayamas, basically religiously 15 minutes a day, every day. After approximately a month, I was like, wow, wait a second, I can breathe. Like everything cleared up. And I started teaching, like as a fitness coach, I started teaching also like some sort of like breathing modalities as well. Not like breath work that you do, but just for the supplementation for when you're lifting in the gym, right? And that was just amazing because I was just surprised that you can heal, like you can heal basically with if you have the tool, if you know the tool, if you know how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so amazing.
Breathwork is this full spectrum, all the way from pranayama, which a lot of people are familiar with from yoga, meditation. There's functional breathing for exercise, for sleep, right? For nervous system relaxation, all the way to kind of that altered state of
Yeah.
consciousness breath work, which serves a whole different purpose, but it's still breath. It's still using the breath, right? And with those, the breath work that alters people's consciousness, I know people who have healed injuries where whatever the energetic imprint or that trauma that was stuck somewhere in the body just releases from our fascia or from that joint to right rebirthing techniques where people literally relive their birth and release any sort of trauma or
Yeah.
energy around that. So it's beautiful to work with, yeah, all the way from like super mild, super gentle, like little, I love that you said the
Mhm.
word supplements, like breath supplementation throughout the day for
Mhm.
wherever you're at, all the way to this end of the spectrum breathing where you're literally releasing like years of
Oh
stored
yeah,
trauma and stress from the body.
absolutely. Yeah, I love it. I know that in my work too, I invited Marina to be one of the experts in my program, because when you have that trauma, you need that like it's stored in your body. With breath work, you release those chemicals, right? Like those hormones that were stored with the trauma at that moment. And nothing works better than breath work.
Yeah.
I mean, you can probably go into like say try psychedelics and all the stuff, but like let's face it, nobody like if you need something right now, right?
Mhm.
You're not gonna go and like do a psychedelic retreat.
That's exactly how I found my way into breathwork because
Mm.
so after I left the corporate world and kind of healed my own body through various modalities over the past 6 years, I was in psychedelic therapy for a number of years.
Mhm.
So for about 2 years, I worked with psychiatrists who are prescribing ketamine protocols to clients, and I would work with the client to integrate their experiences, which is a beautiful space to work in. But psychedelics aren't for everyone. They're not accessible. They can be very expensive.
Mhm.
And if you're talking about a different type of psychedelic where you're traveling to a retreat, maybe in Latin America, again, there's so many costs with that.
Yeah.
And I was just looking for ways to make this as accessible as possible. Because there's also, a lot of kind of stigma around psychedelics. A lot of people are unsure about if they want to try that. But how many people are dysregulated in their bodies today? So many, right?
Mhm.
And that's what I learned from being in the corporate world is there's a lot of people who are suffering unnecessarily and don't even know it, right?
Mhm.
There's ways that we can feel so much better in our body, and breath work can meet you exactly where you're at. It's pretty much free once you learn the skills, right?
Yeah.
You can manage your stress level better. You can, right, connect with people in your life. You can accomplish so
Mhm.
much more through this exercise, efficiency, right?
Yeah.
How well you
Aging
exercise,
too.
aging. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much. So it's really learning like the skill of breath that is, yeah, much more accessible than really anything else
Yeah.
I found so far.
Yeah. I love it. Tell me, where did you start your journey with breath work? Like take me back to the corporate.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
it's
probably love that story.
so for me, the entry point into everything, into the whole space of health and health coaching and wellness was my yoga certification, which is funny because I got it on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. So I was
Mm.
living in New York at the time. I think I was probably 27 at the time. This was in like 2017 when I had
I was
just
still
moved
there
there.
too.
Yeah, isn't it so funny?
Yeah.
So many of my friends, our friends here in the community that I now know, we were all in New York at the same
Yeah.
time. We just didn't
We all
meet for like,
escape to Austin. If you're in New York, come to Austin. That's the place.
yeah. And it's interesting. I think that was the first time I really became present to the impact that I was unaware of before. So, like, when
Mm.
you don't know, right? You
It's your
actually,
reality. It's
right,
normal for
exactly.
you.
It's like a fish that's asking, like, what's water? And
Yeah.
so, like, living in Manhattan, right? Just commuting on the subway,
Oh my God.
traffic noise, so many people. Like you're never alone on the sidewalk, right? There's really
Mm-mm.
so little space. Restaurants, like they're all really intimate. So just becoming present to like, whoa, we are in this environment that we're actually not designed to exist
Mm-mm.
in, right? We need space, we need nature, we need access to quality air. That's another
Yeah,
thing,
that was my
right?
biggest thing.
Hmm.
The one of the biggest reason I moved because I'm like, I need nature. I can't live in this concrete world,
Yeah.
not having trees, not having walk. Like there's just so much disconnection was at that point moment. And I grew up like being connected to nature. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I gotta escape.
Yeah.
I need to run.
Yeah. And it's interesting as I'm reflecting too, like breath work, obviously what you need is air, access to air, access to
Hmm.
outdoors, fresh air, right? There's such a challenging air quality for me in Manhattan and in many big
Of
cities. Like I
course.
remember when I traveled to China really briefly, I mean, I had lung heaviness and pain after like a couple days in Shanghai. Like it was so potent for
Oh
me to
wow,
notice
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
And again, right, I have quite a bit of body awareness and attunement that I've gained over time. Most people don't even realize that, right? They
Hmm.
don't even know the impact. And so, yeah, living in Manhattan, I was working in corporate. My last corporate position was at WeWork headquarters. So that was like
We
very
work.
WeWork, yeah. So like very, hustle mentality. We did get a lot done. We were in the office very late. And it was really exciting and exhilarating while it lasted. But at a certain point, right, it all takes a toll. And when I went through my yoga certification,
Why did you decide to do that, by the way? Your yoga
do my yoga
certification,
certification,
yeah. It's like, hey, I probably want to get a yoga certification.
so I find that uh, people like you and I, maybe we just have this access to being guided into things, right?
Hmm.
It's this like intuitive pull.
Yeah.
I went to this info session at the studio on the west side because I knew it was happening. I think I saw a flyer somewhere.
Uh-huh.
No idea. I was already practicing yoga, on and
Mm,
off for like
okay.
4 years, but it wasn't like a core staple in my life. It was something I really enjoyed.
Hmm.
But I was like, hey, let me just check it out. Signed up on the spot, had no plan to do it. I was just like, this feels really right. Really love the teacher and the cohort. So I just think of that as one of those things that was just kind of meant to be. It was
Hmm.
like there for me at that time. And it was this perfect gateway into everything else.
Yeah.
So that was a 5-month program on the weekends. We would connect on the Upper West Side. And it was this like gaining awareness incrementally through those 5 months of like, oh, wow, this is what I notice now when I'm
Mm.
in the office. Oh, like my breathing really needs to change. Becoming more aware of the stress that my body was holding, right? Again, like peeling back the curtain of things that I was just not aware of were
Hmm.
going on before. And yeah, that was just this beautiful way to start to connect with my body. One of the things that my yoga teacher said at the time that I'll never forget is how many of us are living life from the neck up. And that was totally me. And
Hmm.
you can actually see this in people, right? Especially in big cities when we're so kind of it's so congested and we're like squished with one another,
Hmm.
right? We're usually just looking down at our phone. We're not really connecting with
Yeah.
one another.
Hmm.
You kind of pass people by on the street without looking up, without looking at them. People rarely take a moment to like connect and say hello. Now in Austin, we do that, which is
Yeah.
so
Even
nice.
just smile, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, I remember walking, I was in Manhattan going through the certification for eye training with like, it's like a neuro training. And I was just so inspired. It was so good. Like you just, you learning, you helping, like you thinking about helping your clients in a different
Hmm.
way. And I was like walking and smiling. And I just remember people were
Yeah.
like, what are you smiling at? Right. And I'm like, oh, it just so like there's no kind of like response from
Hmm.
them. And you feel like so just lonely
Yeah.
and disconnected.
Well, when you're not used to connecting in that way, right,
Hmm.
as we're not in big cities, it could be really, I want to say like penetrating. It could be really
Yeah.
like confronting. Like if someone does just say hello to you at the grocery store and you're kind
Yeah.
of in your own world, right? It kind of jolts you. But that was when I started to notice that in myself. I'm like, wow, yeah, I don't usually notice the cues of my
Hmm.
body. I'm not usually connecting with what would be best for me to do today. I'm just really
Just
living from
go.
like
Hmm.
goals and what gets to get done and the events I have to go to. And yeah, over those 5 months, I started to really notice, especially in the office setting and in that sort of really like, again, I want to say like hustle culture, really goal oriented, deadlines,
Hmm.
like do whatever it takes at any cost
Yeah. Don't eat, don't
sort of
sleep.
culture. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, lack of sleep. I started to just really pay attention to some of those cues in my body. Like I would have a really hard time with my digestion, not in like a severe way, but that was just one of the things that I started to notice is I'm usually going back to back to back in meetings and we had a pretty packed calendar. Like we were very
Hmm.
meeting heavy, which was challenging because all the work would start at like 5 p.m. once the meetings were done. So then we'd be there from like
Yeah.
5 to 8 working. But just starting to notice like the cues of the body, how am I actually feeling? How much caffeine am I consuming? Like really
Mm.
being present to like I would have 3 cups of coffee throughout the day. And now thinking about that, I know I'm so caffeine sensitive. Like I have that awareness of what works and what doesn't for
Hmm.
me, but I didn't at the time. So it was like, asking all of these questions like, how am I eating? How much coffee am I consuming? How am I taking care of myself? When am I going to sleep? It was just this like, whoa, gaining all of this awareness around it. So that's kind of
Hmm.
what started it is that yoga training.
And how did you get to breathwork after that?
Yeah, it would be some time until I found my way into this space of like the functional breath work and breath
Hmm.
training with people, and also just the types of breath work events that you came to recently here in Austin, where I guide people through a breath work experience that's, usually an hour or so long. That started really when the pandemic started.
Hmm.
So that's when, and I knew I wanted
Were
to.
you still in New York?
No.
No.
So I
Oh,
had moved to Mexico during the pandemic.
oh,
So
okay.
yeah, and it's funny, right? Like that yoga certification, that
Hmm.
training being like a true gateway into a complete life change for
Yeah, like
me.
180.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always knew. So before I worked at WeWork, I was a consultant. So I was traveling a lot. Again, really noticing like the toll that travel and stress and this type of culture was
Hmm.
having on my body, which I don't think is for me. I think some people can thrive in that, right? But I think a lot of us are missing some of these cues that the body sends, that maybe we're doing too much for too long.
I think people think they can thrive in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, until they just burn out.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
there's a patch vacation or some sort of a therapy or whatever, and they go back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that happened for me where throughout like the 5, 6 years of being in corporate, I always knew I kind of didn't fit in, as in I didn't want to do this forever. And many of my colleagues did. They loved it.
Hmm.
They really feel kind of
6 years, pretty a lot
hmm
of time.
yeah. So I always kind of had it in the back of my mind that I would do something else. It
Hmm.
just took me a while to build up the courage and really the clarity to know what it is that I would be doing, which coaching eventually came into focus for me. And I started to coach people as I was still at WeWork. So I would do it part time on weekends and host
Oh,
events
well, okay.
in Manhattan. But when the pandemic started, I really kind of felt this was the time, right? This was
Uh-huh.
it. Having some space to really like think and reflect, and not being in the
Hmm.
office, all of that was actually really supportive for me, really
A
clarifying
lot
the
of people.
transition.
That was my thing too. Just
Yeah,
when pandemic like hit, I was like, well, I was already planning my escape.
me too.
Because when you work with clients, it's just so hard to leave them. Like I was doing
Mm,
fitness and nutritional coaching at the
mm,
time. So I have so many people that I really care. They're like my family. They just, it's not that they needed me necessarily because I love to teach people.
mm-hmm,
So they kind of could have just, done the training on their own, but they're
mm-hmm,
like, we just love like coming here and like learning new things. And it's also accountability part, right? For
yeah.
especially for fitness. So I was like, oh, I don't want to leave them. It's like feels like I'm abandoning them. But then
Mm,
when pandemic, hit, I was like, yeah, that's it. No, I'm leaving. Like packing, leaving, bye. Literally, it just probably like maybe couple weeks, and I decided that I'm done. It's
wow.
time. I can't like I lost any connection with myself at that point with
Mm,
like what I want to do.
yeah.
Like what is the next step? What is the life I want to build? Do I still want to be in fitness and nutrition coaching? At that moment it was already like coming up maybe 6 years.
Mm-hmm,
So I was kind of feeling that I want to have a different, still working with people but in a different way. But I couldn't even hear myself because I was just like all the hustle, all the, as you said, you're driving, like I was driving around too, and it's just crazy that you just have like that time for yourself. You come home, I was studying, like you do some sort of work and then you go back, like I had college also, like you go back to sleep, you come, like you wake up at like 5 or 6 because it's, subway and you need to like drive there,
yeah.
come back, work and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, that's no, like my life is just like reflecting back, I know that there are periods of my life that I don't remember.
Mm,
Like I remember I was in college in Long Island, like Long Island University. It's right downtown Brooklyn.
mm-hmm,
I don't remember what was going on there.
wow.
Like nothing. I was like, wow, far out. My nervous system was just like,
Yeah.
you know.
Whoa, that's yeah,
Hmm.
that's powerful. Yeah, I think the pandemic forced us, so many of us, to slow down finally
Mm-hmm.
for the first time in maybe a whole life.
Yeah.
That was the realization for me, is that I actually worked. I had a job starting at 14 years old. I just loved working. I loved earning an income. I loved being there for others,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that's a big one for women, that sense of
Yeah.
obligation that you touch on. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I want to contribute and be there for everybody in my
Mm-hmm.
life and support people and
Nurture.
yeah. So that was the first time for sure of facing the question of like, what do I actually want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a really confronting question. And I mean, I'm still asking myself that very much over
Yeah.
like ever since that happened initially over the past 5 years. But yeah, and it's funny that you say that. I had already initiated my process of exiting
Mm.
before the pandemic started. And then by April, when the pandemic was like actually here
Yeah.
and fully present, and right, everyone was at home, I was faced with this decision again. It's like, am I going to stay the course? Right? This is crazy what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
No one knows what's about to
Yeah.
actually happen. And I was like, yeah, I think I have to stay with this. I have to stay with the decision. And so then when I finally quit, I moved to Mexico for a couple years. That was a way for me to first reset my body and then to
Mm-hmm.
start to learn all the different modalities like psychedelic therapy, diving more into yoga, more into pranayama meditation, sound healing, just so many modalities that were available there at the time. And then I had finally found myself in the breathwork space and really feeling fascinated first with the potential that breathwork holds. And it's just still something that's so not widely known or explored, like what it actually is. And I mean that full spectrum
Mm-hmm.
of what breathwork is, not just the pranayama, but all of it.
Yeah.
So that's when I really started to dive into it about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
2022, right?
yeah,
Like that
yeah.
time. Did you already move here?
I had spent about 4 years living abroad,
Uh-huh.
and then yeah, I felt a pull to be back, and I moved to Austin about a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, just on this like intuitive pull that it's time to come back and it's
How
time
did you
to
choose Austin? I'm just curious.
friends of friends, I think, but really,
Mm-hmm.
again, just an intuitive pull. And I know that, both you and I are into numerology and astrology and all the things, but it's funny, I just had a reading about my chart and just like the map of the world, right? Astrocartography. And Austin is like the most auspicious place for me. I have like
Mm.
4 lines here. It's crazy.
Wow.
And that's one of the things that, I was sharing with my friend, the astrologer. I was like, I'm never doing anything without consulting you first. But she was like, no, like we do always end up where we're meant to
Uh-huh.
be at the right time. This is just about maybe like knowing a little bit more about why we're there, what we're there to learn. But yeah, I don't know how I ended up here, but it was definitely meant to be
Mm-hmm.
because of just how supportive the energy in the community and my work here has been. Yeah, just I guess magic.
Magic. Yeah. In other words, vibration. You
Yeah.
attract how you vibrate, right? And that's more of a science now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fascinating. Yeah. It's feel like Austin is a magnet for this type of lifestyle. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to say like, but it's a lifestyle here. What's different?
Yeah.
It's you have that if you want. You have that hustle if you want.
Mm-hmm.
You have the nature. You have everything. You have people. You have community. That was missing at least for me when I moved to South Carolina. It was just like Mexico for
Mm-hmm.
you. I was just healing. I
Mm-hmm.
was just healing, meditating, getting into like my body, intuition, going back to how I used to see my future, like in images, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I moved to Los Angeles, I just didn't have that sense of community because it's just New York, but spread out more,
Mm-hmm.
like it's more driving and kind of you don't really see people because like if you live in Marina Del Rey and your people like or your friends live somewhere in like West Hollywood or somewhere there, it's like an hour drive one way
Yeah.
if it's not a traffic there, and then you're stuck somewhere like in Hollywood, and then that's it. So I'm like, yeah, I honestly don't. I want to have people. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
want to have people. I want to have community. I want to connect. And there's so many events in here. That's where we
Mm-hmm.
met with you, I think, right?
Yeah.
One of the events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's so important to create community, access to nature, just slowness, like slowing down
Hmm.
wherever we are. So even if people are in a big city or Manhattan or wherever, I think we're all craving that now after the pandemic. and there's more awareness around why it's important and how much we need to be in community and be
Yeah,
with other people and be meeting new people and being outdoors, right? And being healthier, like really having a focus on
absolutely.
health in all its forms. So, yeah, I think it's so important to create that wherever we go. Um, yeah, because I
Hmm.
wish everybody could have access to what we have here,
I
right?
know.
It's so magical.
I mean, Austin's
Um,
growing,
yeah,
so we'll see.
yeah.
Okay, so you told me, you told us that there are different things, different modalities in breath work, right?
Hmm.
Like like for a person who might not be so familiar with breath
Hmm.
work, walk me through the like what it is, why is it so important, maybe where to start, right? Like
Hmm.
maybe people are not ready to go into like full breath work
Hmm.
experience. I know a lot of like for me it was like I jumped in right away with
Mm.
Vitali. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I knew him personally, and when I met him in Los Angeles, so I'm like, oh, I'm jumping in,
Hmm.
like let's do it. Like I'm curious, but I know people who like I'm not ready yet to do
Yeah.
like the full emergency,
Yeah,
like
for
emerge,
sure.
and yeah, walk me through that.
Yeah. So that end of the spectrum type of breath work where we're breathing for an hour plus, right? And you're
Hmm.
going into this altered state of consciousness for sure. That takes a lot of warming up. It's a really brave step to jump into it like you did. Yeah, we're kind of a similar
Yeah.
archetype where I'm like, yeah, I'll just try whatever at any point. But yeah, it's something that we definitely want to be really mindful of and find someone who can really guide us through that
Hmm.
before, right? We like fully dive in and explore that. But there's breath work and types and ways of breathing that are for everyone, right? There's breathing that could support you with pretty much, I think, most things that people live with today, because a lot of things are originating from stress in the
Hmm.
body, right?
Yeah.
Even conditions like gut health, right? IBS,
Immune
autoimmune
system. Yeah.
conditions, so many things can come back to a dysregulated nervous system
Hmm.
and a stress response that's been turned on for too long. And breathwork supports with that. So,
Hmm.
of course, through different ways of breathing, we can start to support so many other issues in the body. So, I think the starting point is really just understanding that the breath supports our heart rate and the cardiovascular health of the
Hmm.
body and our brainwave state. So, breathing is one of the biggest signals in the body to either turn on more stress or to create
Hmm.
more relaxation. And so that's one of the most, I think, fundamental things to realize is the way that we breathe is literally like a switch on your wall that turns on the
Yeah.
light. We can either turn on more stress or we can down regulate the body and create more calmness.
Hmm.
And we can work with both of those directions because sometimes we need a little bit more energy and we need a little bit more stress. If you maybe didn't sleep well and you have a busy day, or you're speaking on stage, or you're having an interview,
Hmm.
right? We sometimes want to use the breath to activate more
Yeah.
of the body in that way. And then vice versa, I think this is where this is a majority of the breath we need now because for many people, stress is kind of overactive and turned
Hmm.
on for a lot of the day. So then we can actually use the way that we're breathing to calm down, to sleep better, to have more connection, right? To come out of stressful moments. So
Hmm.
there's ways of breathing that could support that. So that's the most fundamental parts about the breath. It's just noticing how you're breathing in different moments of the day, how you're feeling when you're breathing that way. And there's really simple practices like those in pranayama, so the yogic traditions that
Hmm.
are like 5,000 years old, right? People have known this, studied this, and have
Yeah.
been practicing this for literally thousands of years. That regulation and activation type of
Hmm.
breathing before we even get to like any other ways of breathing where we
Advanced.
can
Yeah.
breathe for like trauma release and stress release and so on. So I think the first space I would invite anyone into if they want to explore what breathwork can do for them, but maybe they weren't sure where to start, is exploring different functional breathing. And you can, right, turn to YouTube. I am working on a course now that kind of lays it all out,
Hmm.
but even working with breath patterns like box breath, which is really helpful for focus, the alternate nostril breath,
Hmm.
right, that helps relax the body before we go to sleep, and looking up either like breath work, that's pranayama, yogic breathing techniques, or functional breathing. That's another kind of key
Mm-hmm.
word to look for, is learning what functional breathing really is. And for that, to touch on functional breathing, the way I think of it is training ourselves back to how we breathed when we were children. And when
Mm-hmm.
we're a baby and when we're young, we instinctively know to breathe deeply. If you think of a baby laying on its
Yeah.
back, its
Mm-hmm.
belly is always moving, like it's never
Mm-hmm.
restricting how it's
With
breathing.
sweet
That
little
would be,
belly. Mm-hmm.
yeah, same with pets, right? We can always see this in pets.
Yeah.
Dogs belly breathe. And so over time, we learn this less functional breathing pattern because we
Mm-hmm.
sit, because we drive a car, right? Because stress happens. And so usually what happens in the body is we tend to have the muscles that are responsible for
Mm-hmm.
breathing become tighter, right? They become through our posture, right? This rounded forward posture. Yeah,
Shoulders.
the
Yeah.
shoulders, the upper back rounds forward because we're on our phone, on our laptop.
Mm-hmm.
And so functional breathing trains us back to breathing how we used to when we were kids, breathing in a optimal way, breathing with your abdomen,
Mm-hmm.
not just with your chest. And really, this is also really helpful over time for posture correction too. So, retraining ourselves back from that rounded forward
Yeah.
posture. Those are some of my favorite things to share with my clients because that has such an impact on how you feel throughout the day. Because when we're in that dysfunctional breathing
Mm-hmm.
pattern, when we are rounded forward, right, constantly like going event to event, meeting to meeting, we're not mindful of how we're breathing. And so that creates more stress in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So I always remind people this, the way that you're breathing can be either creating more stress for you. If you already feel stress, this is one of the best things to become mindful of
Yeah.
because you are likely actually creating more of it. Or the way we're breathing can actually help us relax
Mm-hmm.
throughout the day
Yeah.
continuously. So that's the functional breathing where we're
Also,
connecting with it and training ourselves.
yeah, I also want to add that it's funny that it actually also regulates your emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're anxious, so you feel like, something happened, you argued with your partner or at work. Usually, if you think about the like the defeat you
Mm-hmm.
lost, like you want to like hunch and like you kind of like doing this.
Yeah.
But to even regulate that on the spot, if you just stand tall and straight, you can
Mm-hmm.
go into the Tony Robbins. I love that pose, like the
Yeah.
winner pose, right?
Yeah.
And you just breathe through your entire body and
Yeah.
right? So that alone will just upregulate your, like your state right away. Any
Mm-hmm.
manifestation work, affirmation work, if you like changing your reality and all of this stuff. If you're doing it from that state, that's most likely your body will be like, yeah, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
But if you are upright, the chest here, and you're regulating your state first,
Mm-hmm.
that's where magic happens.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because
So I
it's
love that you mentioned that because it's very important not only to like, oh, like let's just think about stress, it's for creation as well.
it's all
Mm-hmm.
interconnected. And that's why, again, I love the breath, is because it connects all the different parts and
Mm-hmm.
systems in the body, your physical body, your mental state, your emotional state. This is what we forget, right? And finally we're moving to this view of medicine and of wellness that understands that we're an interconnected system of all of these different
Yeah.
parts.
And we all
Because,
work like the body, mind, everything, soul works together.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a good reminder of like, many of us will train our body, right? We'll exercise, we'll run, we'll lift weights. That's great. That's perfect. Many of us will focus on mental health, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's coming more and more into focus now, whether it's supplements or medications or focusing on sleep. We know how that's important for mental health. Journaling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Therapy, coaching, super important. But it's this beautiful middle point of like, what are you doing for your emotional health?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that all three impact each other,
Yeah.
right? It's not a silo. And so breathwork is one of those beautiful spaces where it can impact your physical body, right? And your physical health in such an
Mm-hmm.
impactful way. It can impact your mental health and it impacts your emotions because as you find your breath throughout the day and notice how am I breathing and how am I feeling when I breathe that way, you can start to choose better emotional states.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you are feeling defeated, that's such a good example. The first thing to notice is how am I breathing? Can I straighten up my posture? What am I thinking about? when I'm in that state, what will be more supportive for me
Mm.
as I move forward in my day. If I don't want to feel defeated and continue that for hours and hours, right? A few things that are going to be super helpful is how you're carrying yourself, how you're breathing, and you're going to start to notice naturally your mood changes as you change
Yeah.
your breathing and the state of your body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How I know that there's what is this? I forgot the terminology for this. When you cut like the bolt.
Oh, your essentially like breathing capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you just pretty much, because that was interesting for me. I never, I mean, I didn't know about that, but pretty much like the inhale, exhale counts as one, and you need to set a timer for 60 seconds and see how many, like inhale, exhale one, right? And I'm like, that could not be so high, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I at that moment already was doing a lot of meditation, so I was aware of my breathing throughout the day, and I was always trying to like breathe
Mm-hmm.
very like slow in and out because I'm naturally very high
Mm-hmm.
high person. And then when I started working with teaching that too, we were counting that some people had like 20, which is absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
That means that they always in that firefly,
Yeah.
like respond, and
Yeah.
that there's no deep breathing. So you're not your entire like body and organs actually getting enough oxygen because it doesn't go as deep. It just goes like halfway and comes out.
Yeah.
A lot of respiratory infections also come up from this, and like allergies and stuff, same thing, right? So like that's what you can do pretty much to just become aware of, am I actually breathing, I don't want to say correctly, but like optimally.
Yeah,
Here we
that's my
go.
favorite
Yeah.
word. Yeah, so there's a number of different breath tests and
Hmm.
measurements that you can do for the state of your breathing and your respiratory system health, essentially, which also plays completely with your cardiovascular health as well.
Hmm.
Like these are so intertwined. Your breathing rate and your heart rate, right, and your recovery rate from exercise, like there's so much there. But a few of my favorite things to look at if anyone's curious, because just as with physical exercise, for example, there's different measurements, right? We can measure your strength, your flexibility,
Hmm.
your VO2 max, right?
Yeah.
Your mile time, right? There's similar tests that we can measure the health of your nervous system
Hmm.
essentially through your breath. This is actually one of the best measurements for how resilient you are to stress and how well is your nervous system functioning. So through different breath tests. So a few that I really love is if anyone has a wearable like the Aura Ring. So I love my Aura Ring. I've had it for 6 years. There's of course other wearables, right? Your Apple Watch, Garmin, so on. But looking for one that measures your breathing rate at night. So this is kind of like what, right, the
Interesting.
Bolt test touches on for anyone who's interested to look that up. But this is a really interesting way to easily just kind of check where are you at? Are you over breathing? Right? Are you breathing essentially too much, especially when you're at rest?
Hmm.
Because it'll measure your breathing rate at night. So when you're not exercising, when you're not talking,
Yeah, and you're not
it's
aware of it and not
right. It's a
controlling it.
really good like
Like
baseline
baseline.
measurement. And we ideally want to look for a breathing rate as close to like 10, 11, 12 breaths per minute as possible. Now, that's not realistic for a lot of
Yeah.
us because we're talking, we're moving, we're experiencing stress throughout the day. So our body is going to reflect some of that at night
Hmm.
as well. But continuously doing practices throughout the day that slow your breathing down can just train the body back to breathing in a slower, more efficient way. So we actually want to breathe less per minute rather than more.
Yeah.
When we're breathing 20 breaths a minute, right? Some people, if you have any chronic condition, sleep apnea, asthma, so on, will breathe as much as 40 breaths a
Oh my,
minute.
crazy.
So we definitely know there that the heart is working really hard, right? When we're over breathing, that also
Over
puts a stress on our
oxygenation.
heart. We're not recovering well. We're probably not sleeping well. So that's a really easy, just like thing to notice. And you can also just measure this at rest, right? If you don't have a wearable, you could just put a minute on a timer and just measure, like breathe normally or have someone else do it for you because it's a little hard to measure yourself. But just notice what's at rest, my baseline, how many breaths per minute am I taking? So that's an easy, again, measurement of that. One of my favorite tests for breath work as far as nervous system health goes is the exhale test.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where you take a regular inhale in and then you exhale for as long as possible. So
Mm-hmm.
without like forcing or straining this, again, this is a little bit like nuance. So ideally someone else measures you and
Mm-hmm.
like holds the timer. But you take a regular inhale in, you let the person know when to start the timer, and then you trail the exhale out as long as possible. And ideally, that is somewhere around like 30, 35 seconds, maybe 40 seconds, because that tells us that we're in control of our breathing
Mm-hmm.
and right the slowness and the steadiness of the breath. And we also have a big capacity for that exhale,
Mm-hmm.
which is another way to measure like how stressed am I? Because usually, and I've tested this myself, it's so interesting how this is such a like a thermometer in the body for how stressed you are. Because one day I had a red eye, I was rushing around, I was decided to measure this, just like I know it's going to be super low, but let me just measure this. I measured it at the airport. My exhale was like 7 seconds, which is crazy
Wow.
because normally when I'm, had
Mm-hmm.
a productive week, I had some time to really focus on breathwork practices throughout the week, my exhale will be like 35, 40 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So it just shows us how much tolerance we have for that buildup of stress in the body, right? And it's measured through how much
Mm-hmm.
control we have over our exhale. And so, again, this is not often talked about, but this is that, yeah, thermometer, that way to measure the resilience of the body that's completely represented in how we're breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So after this podcast, please sit down and do the test and let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So walk me through what kind of people are you working with? What is that common ask maybe when
Mm-hmm.
clients reaching out to you? I know that you have also a lot of speaking events that you do. So what is that, especially now, I guess it changes over, like it can change over the years,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like some asking, but what is now? What is,
Yeah. So, who I primarily work with is people like me in the past, anyone who's experienced burnout or is maybe feeling like they're on the verge of burnout.
Mhm,
I've also supported, obviously, through the psychedelic work that I was doing, people with depression
mhm,
and anxiety. And I really think that breath work itself is really supportive of it can support with depression and with mental health and mood for sure. But it's really helpful for anxiety because a lot of times anxiety, one of the things that's happening in the body is that dysfunctional breathing pattern. We're over breathing, we're not mindful of it.
mhm,
I always remind people if anyone's ever experienced a panic attack, first of all, it's okay. You're never going to die from a panic attack. It's not possible. We're really just in that hyperventilating stress
yes.
state. And
Mhm,
so the reminder there is it's physically impossible to have a panic attack when you're breathing in a slow and regulated way,
mhm,
right? And so when things like that happen, right, a lot of anxiety is feeling present first thing in the morning, or maybe someone is prone to panic attacks. One of the best things that we can do is focus on regulating our breathing through maybe 3 10-minute practices throughout
mhm,
the day, or at least 10 minutes in the morning, right? Or if you experience that anxiety at certain points in the day, maybe it's in certain work meetings or when you are working with someone specific or are faced with the specific place in your life where anxiety spikes, doing something before you go into that, spending some
mhm,
time focusing on your breath, focusing on regulating your breathing, right? Maybe it's just regulating your breath with inhaling for 5, exhaling for 5, and doing that for 3 minutes. That's a really simple and easy
mhm,
practice that kind of synchronizes the brain and the heart and takes us out of a stressed, anxious state. That's going to be really helpful. But yeah, it's anyone who's experiencing a lot of stress, dysregulation. Maybe it's usually work stress for those that I work with.
mhm,
So I work with a lot of executives, people who are in leadership roles. I also work with a lot of parents who are both working and parenting at the same time.
mhm.
So
Yeah, that could
really
be
thinking,
stressful.
yeah, thinking
Mhm,
about how to insert more of that regulation and relaxation throughout the day to help us over time come into more of a calm state and a longer time
mhm.
frame in the body.
Will that become their new habit if they like do it at quite like enough time, I guess?
Yeah, people always ask me like what my breath practice looks
Mhm,
like, and I always say like I'm practicing breath work all the time. Like even now, one of the ways that I'll say practice breath work, it might not feel or seem like
Mm-hmm.
breath work to most people, but it really much is for me, is when I'm speaking, whether it's on stage, podcast meetings, coaching calls, I'm constantly taking a deeper breath every several minutes. So when we
I do
speak,
the same. Yeah, I'm not
and it's
sitting
breath
while you're
work.
speaking. I'm like,
Exactly.
yeah.
And we know that it feels good it
Yes.
intuitively feels
Mm-hmm.
right. But what's happening there is whenever you're speaking, so if someone who's listening speaks a lot, whether on calls, on
Mm-hmm.
video, on stages, whatever it is, speaking is a sympathetic activity. It's a stressful
Yeah,
activity
because there's
in the
also
body.
a lot of hyperventilation
Exactly.
there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm speaking, I'm inhaling air rapidly,
Yeah.
right, to get my next thought across. And so then when you have a moment of time when you're not speaking, when you're being asked a question, where you're just
Mm-hmm.
resetting, continuously take a deep breath in and breathing with the abdomen, not just with the chest. Your earlier question was, what are some of the most common like questions or requests that I get?
Mm-hmm.
Chest breathing and regulating that. A lot of people are now becoming aware of, I do breathe in my chest. I hold stress and tension up in my upper body area, my neck and my
Mm-hmm.
shoulders. A lot of times that too can be supported by just knowing how to breathe deeper and redistributing the breath lower down below the chest in the body. And then another one I often hear is, it's hard to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Again, that's
Mm-hmm.
both an emotional piece to what's going on in the body. That's very much like, what is your relationship with receiving,
Yeah.
with supporting, right? With like taking in versus just giving, 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 right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
exhale. But what's your relationship with that receiving of the breath into the body? On a physical level, though, it's very much that, just like, a muscle that's weak, we lift some weights and it
Mm-hmm.
becomes functioning again, it
Yeah.
becomes strong, we build that muscle. It's the same thing. Over time, we learn and demonstrate to the body to just breathe up here in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
That actually, unfortunately, creates more stress. But over time, as we train, as we practice, we're training the body to breathe lower in the body, to breathe with the belly, to breathe with the sides of the body so the intercostal
Yeah.
muscles can also move.
Mm-hmm. That's so
A
important.
lot of times this all gets tight, right? The diaphragm
Mm-hmm.
gets tight, the abdominals,
Yeah.
the sides of the body. So literally training people back to taking those deep breaths,
Mm-hmm.
it's both, yeah, an emotional, but also very much like a simple physiological training problem that we
Yeah.
can solve really easily over like a month or so.
Mm-hmm. It's also interesting when I was coaching, fitness coaching, and like for myself as well. My friend, he's physical therapist, so he took a
Hmm.
lot of courses, obviously for especially brain, nervous system regulation, because pain lives in the brain, the circuit that gets triggered all the
Hmm.
time. So when let's say he was, working with his clients, and I was observing because I was like, oh, I want to know more. It's fascinating how your body works, and especially neurology, just like
Yeah.
mirroring everything. So, and then like he would say, breathe into this part of your body and put the hand on this. And I will notice that a lot of people don't really have an awareness of how do I breathe into my just right side of my body? Like, how does
Hmm.
it possible, right? Or can I really breathe right here or right here? Or like,
Hmm.
can I open up my lower, like my ribs right there, like upper ribs on your back, right? You
Hmm.
have those, and like open it up. Can you open it up in all the way? And that was like interesting. Like right now, like when I'm training, I always feel it like I do mobility work. So I'm
Hmm.
always breathing into parts of my body that requires my attention.
Yeah.
And it takes time and practice for sure. Like don't be discouraged if you're like, oh, I don't feel it, like something is wrong with you. No, it's just like you condition yourself to breathe
Hmm.
through here, and that's why this feels like it's not your body and like there's nothing going in there.
Right.
Right.
I love that you said mobility. This is mobility work for
Mhm.
sure. Like learning how to breathe with your whole torso all the way down actually to the pelvic floor.
Yeah.
Like I talk about that connection a lot often because the pelvic floor is very sensitive to stress, right?
Mhm.
And we see this in animals, in humans, right? That sensation of like pulling up, like if you hear a loud noise or someone drops a glass and it shatters. I promise you that if you could like become hyper aware of your body in that moment, the pelvic floor is gonna pull
Oop.
up,
Uh-huh.
right? And we're
Yeah.
gonna clench and tighten all of these muscles from the pelvic floor to our belly, our intercostals, all the way through the chest,
Mhm.
right? It's just this unconscious response that always happens. And so many of us are living in that state though, a majority of the day. And so breath work is this mobility work, like literally internally
Mm-hmm.
in the viscera of the body. It's us almost like getting a gentle massage, definitely for your digestive organs, like when the
Oh
diaphragm can
yeah.
expand fully,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna start to notice some of that really nice feeling, almost like, yeah, internal massage for your intestine, for your stomach, and the ability, like once people find this way to unlock the pelvic floor, so much more opens up all
It's
the way
so
up to
good.
your throat,
Yes, it's
actually.
so good.
So finding that and working with that, yeah, this pairs so well with any sort of like physical therapy or training that people do.
Mm-hmm.
This type of awareness and breath training is great for moms who are postpartum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once the pelvic
Yeah.
floor has healed, it still tends to store a lot of that tension
Mm-hmm.
from birth and the trauma. So breathing deeply and connecting with this part of the body, right? Any sort of hip mobility work that someone is doing is going to pair really well
Yeah.
with deep breathing as
Mm-hmm.
well. And by deep breathing, I literally mean that you're breathing all the way in the torso so low that you actually feel the space below the belly button, like
Mm-hmm.
those few inches right below the belly button. Yes, the upper belly is going to move too, but all the way down in the body, that's signaling safety, release, letting
Mm-hmm.
go. The parasympathetic nervous
Yeah.
system starts to activate. So yeah, it's mobility work, just like anything that we could be doing
Mm-hmm.
externally.
Yeah, I love it. Also, since we're touching on that, like for high productive people, and we love that, it's a lot of like oxygen is your like that supplies your brain too. You know, if you wanna have like the clear the fog, right?
Hmm.
Like that kind of mental like you in a not clear situation, that's also helps a lot with this
Yeah.
when you actually have the deep breath. And
Yep.
then it's just like absolutely I remember the feeling when I was healing through a lot of also like divorce and stuff like that, and I had this first session with Vitali that was
Hmm.
like a more of a the intense work, and he's intense, like you're very gentle. I love your like your session that we
Mm.
just you just had. Vitali is really that was very strong, and but he's also like he's energetically he's absolutely a
Hmm.
huge person.
Hmm.
He did rubber for me once, and I was like, wow, he like blew my brain away for 30 minutes. I'm like, just let me just be here because it's just so like it was so crazy.
Yeah.
And we were doing that online. And I remember like I cried through that session, and I was detaching from my ex-boyfriend. And I
Mm.
remember that feeling when I finally could have, like, I just full deep breath. It was amazing. It was like if almost, I guess, I don't remember that, but felt as if I just took my first breath when I was a
Mm.
baby, you know?
Wow. Beautiful.
I'm like, wow, that what it feels? Not just to get it, but like, because your body is like, you're going through that emotional, like breakup, divorce, whatever it is, right? Like you just tense all the time. And
Hmm.
there's no deep breathing because that feels safer when you just, like tied up like this, because what if something happens? Your nervous system doesn't really know if there's a tiger gonna jump out right now, or you just going through breakup, right?
Yeah.
It was so amazing. Like I highly recommend if you have any type of like things like that that you feel like there's not enough air for you,
Hmm.
like that space is so congested here, do the breath work.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah,
crazy that how it
maybe we
works.
should touch on the that end of the spectrum. So we talked a little bit about like the pranayama, right? And then the
Mm-hmm.
functional breathing, retraining your body back, how it's a massage, it's mobility work when we engage in something like that. And then there's the I call it like point in time breath work where we're showing up for a practice. It's going to be a longer practice. We
Yeah.
have a specific intention there that's usually more emotional in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone who's not familiar with this, right? So this is the lineage of this is from holotropic breathwork, which originated sometime like 50, 60 years ago. None of it, was invented then. Again, we've been breathing and practicing
Yeah.
these various
Mm-hmm.
things for thousands of years. But what's happening there is with the events that I guide and the one-on-one sessions that I do with clients for this type of breath, you're laying down and I guide you through different ways of breathing to create different emotional and physiological states in the body. And
Mhm.
those states are helpful for that release of emotions,
Yeah.
of different events that have happened, right? A breakup, some sort of grief that someone's going
Mhm.
through, a loss of a job. So much could kind of be brought up in a session like that, all the way to people's childhood
I mean,
memories.
that's where it all comes from,
Yeah.
technically, right? Like it all could be like a breakup, right? It's you still suffering from like the divorce. It actually probably gets all the way back to the childhood, but
Yeah.
because that was so much of the unconscious, like things that were happening, you were just observing it, you can really tie it like up with like, oh, that actually I'm suffering like this, and this is my body responding to this trauma because I saw my parents arguing
Hmm.
over something. And that's how when I was little, I pursued this. And now this breakup felt like 100 times more than what I felt back then.
Yeah.
And you can really go back in a just regular therapy. It's really hard when you just like, just the conventional speaking,
Yeah.
like talking therapy, right? Like the breath work is what really gets into like that deep state.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's an important thing to note as there's a lot that we can heal and solve and realize through talking with someone. And
Mhm.
obviously I do some of that work too in coaching where we
Of course.
come back together and integrate and explain what
Mhm.
was, experienced and how to make sense of it. But what's powerful about a breathwork practice is I'm not asking you any questions, right? It's really just you with
It's you.
you.
Mhm.
I'm just guiding the experience that unfolds in your body. And I always remind people that this is actually a core kind of belief from the psychedelic therapy space, which the psychedelic therapy space and the holotropic breathwork space are very interconnected
Mhm.
because that type of breathwork can really lead again to those altered states of consciousness. But at the core of this is honoring that all of us have an inner healing intelligence that, if we allow it to, will unfold and take us in the direction that
Mhm.
healing gets to happen, right? So, whatever imagery comes to your mind when you're in a breathwork session, it's usually really valid. It's something that we really want to kind of lean into and notice. Different sensations come up in the body. So, you mentioned earlier, like breathing into the right side of your body, or maybe it's a specific organ that someone is
Mhm.
struggling with. Maybe they're experiencing a lot of back pain or a lot of hip pain. So the pelvic floor trauma that might be stored there, right? For some people, it's an old injury, like maybe they
Mhm.
injured their right ankle 10 years ago and it still bothers them. Usually, if it's fully healed, there's nothing on an x ray, right? There's no physical
Yeah.
trauma, but it still hurts. That might tell us that there's some trapped emotion or
Mhm.
sensation there that hasn't been released fully or fully processed, right? A lot of times with injury sites, it's how did you feel when you had that injury? As in, were you immobile? Did people have to support you? Did you feel kind of like,
Yeah.
incapable and you
Mhm.
created that story? Now the injury is healed, but that emotional story of how uncomfortable it felt
Yeah.
to, not be able to work or show up or to walk, whatever
Or
happened,
just
right?
that you were like unable to help yourself, an embarrassing
Yeah,
moment where somebody needs to take you to the bathroom, like you,
totally.
that's just, yeah.
So many of those, right? With shoulders, ankles, knees, wherever, hips, a lot of that emotion or that story is stored there. And so in a breathwork practice, because we're not processing it with the mind,
Yeah.
right? We're not having a conversation about it.
Subconscious. Mhm.
Conversations are usually a function of our prefrontal cortex, right?
Mhm.
Where we're thinking what to say next, we're kind of rationalizing it. We're not doing that. So we're actually just feeling and processing.
Mhm.
And there's different things that are happening in the body when we breathe in different ways that are helping release some of that.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my favorite practice to guide someone through when they're ready for it and when there maybe is a specific intention, like different emotions or different events that we want to process, because it could be this really powerful way to honor that we don't actually have to talk about it. We don't have to know where it even came from.
Mhm.
We can just be free from it, right? We could just let it go over the course of, maybe several sessions where we kind of bring that intention in and keep working with that part of the body,
Mhm.
with that organ, with that sensation. And over time, that's what a lot of people find is a lot of the freedom is created in the body, in your emotions, through a practice like that.
I love it. Yeah. It's very powerful. I
Mm.
love it. Okay, we have ritual here.
Love it.
Yeah, so can let you go without this. So this is my favorite deck of card, and I'm just gonna give it to you. Think about an intention, like or something that's important for you right now, or like guidance that you want to ask. Um, okay, you can hold it. Just like think about your intention right now.
Okay.
Okay, take it back. Cool. And you can just hold the card, like you can touch it, you can see which one kind of.
This one.
Okay, here we go. Let's see. Let me see. Let me see. Ooh, interesting. Security.
Wow. I'm in my 8 year. If we follow what I follow with numerology.
Yeah. Okay, let's see.
Whoa, I love it.
What is it telling you?
Eights are big right now for me.
Yes.
Should I say what the question was?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing a ton more content, and this week actually I'm filming lots of content, and it's been this journey of evolving, right? And like really focusing on breath, teaching people the art of breath and the art of breathing. That's my whole process right now is like, where do I need to be seen more? How do I be seen more? How to create more
I see.
content that reaches more people? Yeah, feel like yes, secure in that like delivering my message to more people.
I love it.
So many people need to know.
Of course. And it's your gift, and we need to share that.
So,
Are you maintaining an abundance mindset? An abundance mindset. Now is the time to examine your finances. Financial stability is very possible, and you may already be on that path. If not, check in your money matters and see where you can make adjustments to create a more sound foundation. Even small changes can lead to a stronger sense of safety and security. Embrace any chance encounters that crop up around when you see this number. It may present a surprise opportunity for trust and partnership. That abundant future is attainable. What's up, right? So, keeping your mind focused on abundance, making small finances changes that add up to something big, reflecting on the path behind you as you move forward, cooperation, and lucky encounters. Speaking of lucky, right? We just mentioned the lucky. Affirmation. My actions create constant abundance.
I like, yeah, no, that's
That's like, yeah, something that you're doing right now as well. So 8, for those who not familiar with like numerology and stuff, it's very money number. It's very abundant wealth number, and you feel that. Yeah, for now, and you pulled 8 or 8, which means you're on the right path, right? So it's talking about abundance. It means that what you're doing right now is, money usually is just the effect after you giving your energy and your talent and you showing up for yourself and for the world.
yeah.
With that brave, courage heart, and money just follows. I love anything. I love for that. Yeah. Okay, I have three. We have three signature questions that I always ask my guests. So number one, what would you say to the woman who knows she meant for more but is scared to bet on herself?
Wow. What I always say, and this was the case with my journey of switching from my 9 to 5 to coaching, is if there's this desire or the idea that you want to do something different, or you want to do something more, or you want to be right seen and have a brand, and, speak, whatever it is. Like if there's a change that needs to happen, it's not going to go away. So I tried that for probably those first 3 years of being in corporate, where I was like, oh no, when I just knew my career, I was 22 as a consultant. I knew almost right away within a year, I was like, oh, this is not going to be it. I'm not going to wait. And then for about 2 years, I tried to convince myself because I was like, no, but look at everyone else. Everyone else seems to love this. All my colleagues love this, the whatever travel recognition, the consulting work.
all of this. And yeah, that didn't work.
Yeah.
And it's this reminder that
With all of us.
yeah, about in I believe in Kabbalah. I study Kabbalah. It's an ancient kind of mysticism practice that I really think of almost like outside of religion. It's very much not a religious practice for me. It's like honoring the laws of the universe. And in it, we say that if you have an idea for something, it's actually already meant for you. Yeah, like it's yours. And I think about that all the time because I don't have the same dreams and goals as a lot of people I know. My vision is really unique to me. And that means that it's almost like that vision is what's pulling me forward because it's really meant for me. It's something that I uniquely get to do. Like I don't have a vision of having like a luxury car or, a lot of like beachfront. Yeah, maybe not yet. No, I don't know. Maybe, right, and
Yeah.
so change, yeah, that's a good point, but it's this reminder that we can all have what it is that we want, and whatever you're envisioning is meant for you, and yeah, I like to remind people that it's not gonna go away, especially if you've had it for some time, it's still always gonna be there, so just to start taking really small steps, and
They don't overwhelm themselves. Yeah. Like a lot of people just think that they need to, what kind of like also
quit everything, yeah,
they're just like, yeah, jump from the bridge and just cut all the security, financial things. Like you don't have to do that. Absolutely not. You can just slowly start building. But there's going to be a point where you could have to choose. Like, and it's scary sometimes. I mean, I think it's not maybe for all people, but at least for me, it was the same. Like where I had to like say, you know what, I can't just hide anymore, and like I can't pretend that it's not my calling or my not my purpose, so it's not, because as you said, and then what could happen. I don't know if it's in Kabbalah. It's interesting because I kind of intuitively was talking about those flows, and then I found out that wait, that's about Kabbalah, and that's like that's what you like, kind of like when you manifesting things, you don't know what manifestation is, and then you're like, oh, so I was manifesting.
yeah.
Cool. Now I know, right? That it also the universe will send you tests to just like not to test you that like whether you're worthy or not, like or worthy of it or not, but to test you how much longer you're gonna stay in risk, like and resist that. And the last kind of like reserve is your health.
Yeah,
It's gonna push to your health, like finances, relationship. You'll start noticing some quite a lot of misalignment in your life start happening. Like all of a sudden get all the I don't know, like parking tickets or like something that will be showing you like, hey,
yeah,
you gotta move. That's not your pedals.
yeah.
Yeah. And I like numerology is like I like to talk about numerology is like if you don't know and not aware of left of certain things, because some people are very intuitive, like especially when you're in coaching and like you doing that, you kind of know. But what numerology does, it's like showing you what's there, what's next for you, like what is the best case scenario in your life. And you're like, oh, okay, so that's what I was feeling, and it's showing you like what is the next step you can take, what another energy could be blocked for you. So without the guesswork, right? So that's interesting point.
Yep.
So it's not gonna go away.
So we might as well start with
Yeah, just let's start being open. Yeah, to like, oh wait, yeah, you know what? Let me be just curious. I'm curious to see. I'm open. I don't know what's my next step. I think also like a lot of people get so lost in that. Of what's my next step? Yeah, keep just be open and pay attention to signs, to people. Sometimes like TV commercials, like certain things you're like, oh wow, okay, and never actually like, or you keep driving and all of a sudden you see the sign that was there for all time. And now you actually see it.
right.
You're like, oh wow, okay.
I love those moments.
Yeah, yeah. That's so cool. Okay. Question number 2. If you had to describe your transformation in 3 words, what would they be?
Oh, I just love that. Wow. Curious, brave, genuine.
Mhm.
Genuine slash authentic.
Yeah, I love it. Can you describe all of them in like a couple sentences?
I think it starts with curiosity, right? whatever you're curious about is usually pulling you toward that thing that you're meant to do. Usually that curiosity is part of someone's vision. Then bravery, right? Courage to step forward. I think that was a big part because I would convince myself out of making changes at different stages in my journey. But then when you actually step forward and do the courageous step, so much opens up. Yeah. So much like releases in the body. Um, and then genuine slash authentic. I think for me, even with really focusing on breath work over the past several years, the question has been like, what do I want to do? What's true for me? Not what other people want me to do, or maybe what other healing modalities there are, because there's so many of them and so much that I could focus on. But what's really authentic for me that I deeply care about, that's my thing that I'm here to really bring at a wider, right, scale. Yeah, that's I think the question of the moment and like the emotion of the moment. It's like embodying what's authentic for me alone without any external influence.
I love it. Thank you for that. And the final question, what's one truth you live by now that you didn't before?
Hmm. More and more, it's honoring my body and being more boundary with my time. Yeah. And I think really coming into the knowing and actually practicing that you can have it all, just not all at once. I think that's been the hardest thing for me back when I worked in corporate. Yeah. And just doing so much all the time, all at once. And now really being much more just structured and mindful of what is just the very next thing that I need to focus on, which is also a great way for to that first question. Like, there's any overwhelm around a big change that has to happen. Just like what's the very next thing that I need to do? Really focusing on that as opposed to just like doing everything, which I know a lot of us women, especially,
Also sexuality.
mm, which is my hard day.
Yes, per se. Yeah, that's also like the personality trait, the talent, like what's naturally there for you. And but seeing our routine is really tempered, so it teaches you to have everything in moderation, not to overindulge in anything. And not only like I'm talking about like food or anything like that, but also what you just said, a lot of things is happening. And I'm like, oh, try this. So it's really like finding that middle ground for you, which is like, yeah, I get to focus on this. And maybe that will come a little bit later for me.
Wow, I love that. I didn't know that about 14. I usually do a card of the day for my tarot deck, and I'm into like justice a lot, which is the scales, but I say card too. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
they very kind of like you from. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Where people can find you.
yeah. So I'm changing everything right now. So I think by the time that it will be released, this it'll be all good to go. But it's Women Who Breathe. So you can find it.
Hey, and is there the way they can like book a session with you on what is
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Just on my website, we can do a quick intro call because I always like to just know what part of this breathwork spectrum are we desiring to work on? Where's someone at? Right? What is your big thing right now? Are you noticing chest breathing, stress, overwhelm?
Yeah.
Or is it more, you're in a grief cycle, so we want to focus more on the releasing type of breath work for emotional health. So yeah, that's all in the list.
I love that she said this about the cold, right? A lot of people take the cold, it's like a pressure, to like, oh, that means it's like okay, sold or something. Not. I just want to know, yeah, what you're at. I just want to know what's happening there. How can we help where we can help?
Yeah.
If we're aligned, if you're in that stage where maybe there is something else you need to take first, so like certain resources before we start working. There's so many things that can go into it. So like it's very hard to tell from like a form, like application form,
Yeah.
all that like, well, that tells me something, but like I really just need to call with you and see if we're good feeds. Like this one of my problems that's I gonna do. Like I wanna know, I wanna really be 100% sure that this is something for you, but maybe you're not ready for that, right? Because that's a lot. There's also a lot of information. Transformation is information, and it's like there's a lot of things to handle.
Yeah.
So I love that how you describe that.
Yeah. Right. And yeah, I'm really focusing right now on building out my breathwork course and with it, a women's community for breathwork. So it's going to be just a really simple monthly membership of a couple of breathworks that we do together a month. With lots of other courses and resources there. But
If you're in Austin, by the way, we're doing it in Third Lounge.
yeah, sure. Now I host events about monthly, maybe like every 5 or 6 weeks or so. So yeah, you can find out about that on my Instagram. Thank you so much.
Thank you.